especially if you compare it to the information which we used to read during the July 2006 war. The Israelis are hiding the facts, the true facts about what is going on the battlefield. They're hiding these facts from the Israeli population because they know how capable or how much the Israelis can withstand. The Israeli population cannot put up with a lot of their soldiers being killed. Yesterday, the resistance fighters in the Gaza Strip and in more than one confrontation, they had an excellent performance on the battlefield, the resistance fighters. This shows a true will of jihad and martyrdom and a very high level of tactics and warfare. And the losses, there were high losses amongst the Israeli soldiers. The head of the Golani contingent was injured. Now I don't know how severely his injuries are. One of the head of the Golani contingents in the Israeli army was also killed. Many Israeli soldiers were killed, many were injured. And they've begun to tell the Israeli population about these facts, and they're beginning to speak about the difficulties they're facing on the field of battle. They are obliged to speak about these difficulties because after many days of a ground invasion now, where is the military achievement which they always promised? Today, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and then what? And so today they have been obliged to speak about difficulties on the battlefield. They're speaking also about tunnels. They're speaking about the roadside bombs which are waiting from them everywhere. They're speaking about the martyrs, the Palestinian martyrs who are coming, sacrificing one after the other, bombing themselves right in the middle of Israeli soldiers. And this is a level of cohesion which is stronger than what happened in the July 2006 war, because in the July 2006 war we weren't in that close contact with Israeli soldiers as the fighters in Gaza are. So they're beginning to speak about the solid performance, the will of the resistance fighters, and they recognize that the will of the resistance has not been harmed until now. And so here we must focus on this issue. This reality on the field of battle or on the battlefield, in the end, this factor will impose the political solution. Hamas, of course, will answer positively to the Egyptians' request to hold negotiations and consultations, because Egypt was always required to provide assistance. And when one of us makes a decision or takes a stance from any Arab regime or any Arab leader, when this Arab leader abandons his responsibilities, we must hold this leader accountable. This is natural in order to reach a honorable solution that ends the siege and the military campaign on Gaza. My dear brothers and sisters, I'd also like to say that this enemy and the masters or the teachers of this enemy and this whole group which agreed to the war on Gaza, this is a stupid, dumb group. Why? Because this war, just like in the July 2006 war, up till now has brought about results which are against the wishes of this same group that supported the war. It has backfired on them. So you know, during the last few years and during the last few months, efforts, American and Israeli and some Arab efforts actually were made to try and drag the Arab and Islamic world to say that your enemy is not Israel but it's Iran. Wasn't this the plot actually? Weren't there efforts, political media efforts made for this to happen? So whoever wants to continue with this direction does not wage a war on Gaza. Whoever actually wants this to happen does not wage a war on Gaza, because the war on Gaza has brought back the main idea to the Ummah that the enemy is Israel. Israel, which kills women and children and destroys mosques and hospitals. So waging this war actually has reaffirmed the conviction that the enemy is Israel and not Iran. Even the Security Council moments ago, well actually almost, I'm sorry, just a few more just a few hours ago, said that if the Security Council makes a decision for a ceasefire, we won't be committed to this resolution. So if Olmert says we won't commit ourselves, there's no problem. But if someone else takes this stance, that's forbidden. Now, one other point. The Americans and the Israelis and some Arabs worked vigorously during the last few years to take the conflict in the region to transform it into a sectarian conflict, especially between Sunnis and Shiites. This war, whoever wants to achieve this goal does not wage a war on Gaza, because the war on Gaza, because Gaza is part of Palestine, and Palestine concerns all Arabs and all Muslims, not one sect of Muslims, because those who are being killed in Palestine are our brothers. So this war in Gaza has brought about cohesion and has also destroyed any feelings of hostility between different sectarian groups. The plot was previously to create divisions among different religious sects, and during the past few years also there were efforts made in order to make national relations, normal ties with Israel. We even found that some Arab governments and some Arab countries which don't have any peace agreements with Israel, these same countries tried to make normal ties with Israel, and Livni began to announce very clearly that normal relations is an introduction to peace in their language and is not a result of peace. Normal relations, which the Arabs always gave as a price for a settlement with Israel, Israel wants it preemptively. It wants normal relations before any settlement. So all the efforts to make normal relations and all these conferences and meetings and visits which were made and all these slogans we heard, whoever wants actually to make normal relations with Israel, or Israel which calls on the Arab nations and Arab countries to make normal relations, if Israel really wants this, it wouldn't have waged the war. And so this is a dumb war, and I thank God that our enemies are dumb and stupid. Our enemies who don't know anything but to shed the blood of men, women and children, innocent men, women and children. But when they deny and when they plan to go ahead with their plans and destroy the causes of our region, they fail in achieving their own aims because of their stupidity. My dear brothers and sisters, in the end of this speech tonight, I would like to thank all those who took part in all areas, who took part in the ceremonies for Imam Hussein, in spite of the very cold weather this year. And I'd like to thank you all for answering.
Hezbollah Secretary General Seyyed Hasan Nasrullah there making that live speech from the Lebanese capital of Beirut.